I didn't know I was asleep. That's the first thing you need to understand. Usually there's a flicker, a moment where the world gets soft and you feel yourself sinking. Not that night. I was lying in bed, staring at the crack in the ceiling that runs from the light fixture to the corner, the one I've been meaning to patch for 2 years. It was 3:17 a.m. because I'd just checked my phone, for the fourth time that hour. My husband Daniel was beside me, breathing slow and deep, a rhythm I know as well as my own heartbeat. Everything was normal. Everything was quiet except for the sound. It started as a low bass hum, the kind you feel more than hear, like a fridge compressor but deeper. It vibrated through the mattress and up my spine. Then it took on a shape, a rhythm, not mechanical, organic. It was breathing huge, wet, ragged breaths. Each one whistled with the high-pitched squeak of strained cartilage. I told myself it was the neighbor's HVAC unit. It wasn't. I know this house. I know every creak it makes at 3 a.m., every settling groan. This was a new sound, and it was coming from inside the closet. The door was ajar, just a sliver like it always is because the latch is broken. I stared at that strip of darkness, and that's when the pressure started. It wasn't heavy, not at first, just a warmth pressing down on my chest, like a heavy hand. I tried to move, to shift my shoulder, just to tell myself I could. My arm was a dead weight pinned to the mattress. My fingers wouldn't even twitch. Panic flickered, but I doused it. I'm a logical person. I'm a nurse. I know the science, sleep paralysis, hypnagogic hallucination. My brain was awake, but my body was still in REM sleep, catatonic to keep me from acting out my dreams. It's terrifying, but it's benign. It passes in seconds, minutes at most. I just had to wait it out. I focused on Daniel's breathing. In, out, but then the breathing in the closet synced up with his. It wasn't an echo, it was a duet, two sets of lungs filling and emptying in perfect, obscene harmony. I tried to squeeze out a sound, a whimper, anything to wake Daniel. My throat was sand, my vocal cords frozen. The only thing I could control was my eyes, and I couldn't stop them from sliding back to the closet. The sliver of darkness was no longer just dark. It had a texture. A depth, like the blackness, was swirling, dense and oily. And in the center of that swirl I saw an eye. It wasn't human. It was pale, milky, like a fish caught in a bucket, with a pupil that was a pinprick of absolute void. It wasn't looking at me. It was looking past me, over my shoulder, into the corner of the room. And it was blinking, slowly, deliberately, a wet, sticky sound each time the lids came together. Each blink brought it closer. The gap in the door widened with a groan that wasn't mine. The breathing got louder, a guttural, sucking noise, like something trying to draw air through a wet rag. The pressure on my chest increased. My ribs felt like they were bending inward. My vision started to sparkle at the edges. This wasn't a hallucination. Hallucinations don't have weight. They don't have the smell of ozone and copper, that metallic, electric smell of a coming storm mixed with old pennies. Something stepped out of the closet. I didn't see it move. It was just there, a tall, wavering column of wrongness that was blacker than the dark. It had no shape I could define. It was like a heat shimmer, but it stole the heat from the room. My breath misted in front of my face. It leaned over Daniel first. I could see a suggestion of a head tilting, as if listening to his lungs. It was tasting his air. I wanted to scream a warning, but I was mute. Then it stood up straight and turned to me. The milky eye from the closet was now the only feature on its faceless head. It looked at me, and a wave of pure, primal dread washed over me, the kind a prey animal feels when the shadow of a hawk passes over it. It knelt on the bed beside me. The mattress didn't dip. The weight on my chest quadrupled. It was sitting on me. Its formless face lowered to mine, right over my mouth, blocking my air. It inhaled a long, slow, poisonous breath, and it stole my exhale. It wasn't just breathing the air from my lungs, it was pulling the sound of my thoughts. Every word, every fear, every memory of the ceiling crack and the 3:17 a.m. phone checks, I felt them being siphoned out of me. I was being hollowed out from the inside. I felt my mind getting lighter, my sense of self fraying like an old rope. And as it pulled, it exhaled its own breath into me. It tasted of cold dirt and the copper of blood. I breathed in. And into my mind it poured a single, clear image. It was me. From an angle you can only get from inside the closet, I saw myself lying in bed, my mouth open, face pale, eyes wide and utterly terrified. Daniel was beside me, sleeping peacefully. But in the image, the closet door was wide open. And on the wall, in the shadow of my own head on the pillow, there was a stain. It looked like a damp mark slowly spreading, a dark silhouette that wasn't mine. And I knew with a certainty that cut through the paralysis that the stain was the thing that was sitting on me. And it had been there for a long time. The image shattered. I was back in my body, which was still frozen. The creature was gone. The pressure was gone. I could hear Daniel breathing, normal and dim, no longer synced. I could feel my toes. I could move my fingers. I shot upright, gasping, drenched in sweat. The room was normal. Gray dawn light was leaking through the blinds. The closet door was shut. I fumbled for my phone. 6:47 a.m. I'd been paralyzed for over 3.5 hours. I didn't sleep for the next 2 days. I stayed up, drinking coffee until my hands shook, staring at the closet door. Daniel was worried. I told him about the sleep paralysis. He held my hand and told me it was just stress, that it's a common symptom of anxiety. He was right about the anxiety, but I kept thinking about the image, specifically the angle. It was from the closet. It was looking at me. In the image, my eyes were open, and they were looking right back at the thing inside the closet. I needed to see for myself. I needed to know if there was a stain on the wall. On the third night, I couldn't take it anymore. Daniel was at a late shift at the hospital. I was alone. The house hummed with its usual sounds. I walked to the bedroom, forced myself to open the closet door wide. It was just clothes, shoes, the old suitcase on the top shelf. I stepped inside. The space smelled of cedar and dust. I looked at the wall where the headboard would be, where my pillow was. I looked at the space where the shadow would fall. There was a mark. It was faint, like a water stain from an old leak, but it wasn't a leak. It was a long, thin shape, an elongated smear. Like someone had taken a wet, oily hand and dragged it down the plaster. It ended in a smear that looked remarkably like the suggestion of a hand. And under it, scratched into the paint, were letters, tiny, almost invisible. I had to lean in close, my face inches from the plaster, my heart hammering against my ribs. They were letters, but they were written in a spiral, going inward. I traced them with my finger, my mind slowly turning them from loops and whorls into a word. It was a name. Not my name, Daniel's name, and beside it, smaller, closer to the baseboard, was a date. It was the date we moved into this house, 4 years ago, and below that, one final, half-effaced word. It took me a moment. The letters were worn, as if someone had tried to scrub them away for a long, long time. Mine. An icy wash ran down my spine. I backed out of the closet, my skin crawling. I didn't want to tell Daniel. I didn't want to see his face if he knew. I was still staring at the open closet door, my mind replaying the sensation of that cold, poisonous breath when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was a text from Daniel. "Just got home. Forgot my keys. Can you let me in?" I looked from the phone to the front door down the hall. I was about to text back when I heard the sound. It was the front door downstairs. It creaked open, then shut. And then a heavy, familiar set of footsteps started up the stairs. They paused in the hallway. They got closer. The bedroom door handle turned, the thing in the closet, the thing that had been watching me for 4 years. It wasn't a hallucination, and it had learned to walk around. It had learned to use the keys.